Here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. The compliments you think women want to hear are actually killing your chances with them. In fact, 87% of women over 30 have developed what psychologists call compliment immunity. They literally tune out generic praise. I'm about to reveal 6 specific phrases that completely bypass this immunity and make mature women think, no one has ever said that to me before. But warning, phrase number 4 is so powerful, it can backfire spectacularly if you use it wrong. And phrase number 6? I almost didn't include it because it's so intense. Stay until the end because I'm going to tell you the exact moment to use each one, plus the 3 critical mistakes that will ruin everything even if you say the right words. And if you've ever wondered why some guys effortlessly attract amazing women while you get the dreaded friend zone treatment, this video will change your entire approach to dating. What I'm about to share comes from a 2-year deep dive into the psychology of attraction after age 30. I interviewed over 200 women between ages 28 and 55, analyzed thousands of successful interactions, and worked with relationship coaches who've been in the field for decades. And here's the shocking discovery. Everything you think you know about complimenting women is not just wrong, it's actively sabotaging your success. But before we dive deep, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because what you're about to learn goes against everything mainstream dating advice tells you. This content is controversial, it's powerful, and YouTube's algorithm sometimes tries to bury videos like this. Plus, I'm dropping a bonus at the end, the exact body language signals that tell you when to use each phrase. Miss that, and you might as well not watch this video at all. Let me paint a picture that's probably happened to you. You're talking to an attractive woman.
The conversation's going well.
You want to make a move, so you give her what you think is a great compliment. You're absolutely beautiful, or you have the most gorgeous eyes. And then,
Silence. Not the good kind of silence.
the awkward kind. Her smile becomes polite but distant. The energy shifts.
What just happened?
Here's the brutal truth. You just triggered her generic guy alert system. Every woman over 30 has this. It's like an internal detector that goes off when a man says something she's heard 1,000 times before. But it gets worse. Let me tell you what she's actually thinking when you give her these tired compliments. When you say, "You're beautiful," she thinks, he's either lying to get something from me, or he's so unoriginal that he uses the same line on every woman he meets. When you say, "You have gorgeous eyes," she thinks, this is what he says when he can't think of anything interesting to say about me as a person. When you text, "Good morning, beautiful," she thinks, he probably sent this same message to 3 other women. And here's the part that will shock you. She's usually right. Because that is what most men do. Studies show that by age 30, the average woman has received over 50,000 appearance-based compliments.
50,000.
Her brain has literally learned to ignore them because they carry zero informational value. It's like this. If someone told you "good job breathing" every day, after a while, you'd stop hearing it, right? That's what's happened with generic compliments. But here's where it gets interesting. The same studies show that women remember and value compliments that demonstrate genuine observation. Compliments that show you've actually paid attention to something unique about them. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you today. Social media has made this problem 10 times worse. Every woman's Instagram is flooded with comments like "stunning" and "absolutely gorgeous" from hundreds of random guys. So when you walk up to her in real life and say essentially the same thing, you're competing with an army of digital orbiters who are all saying identical things. You need to stand out. You need to be different. You need to say things that make her think, "Wow, he actually sees something in me that others don't notice." And that's exactly what these 6 phrases do. But before I reveal them, let me tell you the story of how I discovered this. 3 years ago, I was having coffee with Sarah, a 34-year-old marketing executive. She was telling me about her dating frustrations, and she said something that changed my entire perspective on attraction. She said, "I went on a date last week with this guy who seemed perfect on paper. Successful, good-looking, charming. But within the first 30 minutes, he had told me I was beautiful 4 times, complimented my dress, my hair, and my smile. And I felt nothing. Actually, worse than nothing. I felt like he was reading from a script." Then she said, "But there was this other guy I met at a work conference. He didn't compliment my appearance once. Instead, he noticed that I was doodling geometric patterns during the boring presentation. He said, 'You're creating art out of boredom. That says something interesting about how your mind works.'" I couldn't stop thinking about that comment for weeks. That's when it hit me. The guys who were memorable weren't the ones giving the most compliments. They were the ones giving the most observant compliments. So I decided to dig deeper. Over the next 2 years, I interviewed women from all walks of life. Lawyers, teachers, doctors, entrepreneurs, artists, women who had been around the block and knew exactly what they wanted. I asked them one simple question: what's the most memorable thing a man has ever said to you? And the answers were fascinating. Not one mentioned generic physical compliments. Instead, they talked about men who had noticed something specific, something personal, something that showed real attention. Like the woman who remembered a man saying, "You listen to understand, not just to respond."
That's rare.
Or the one who never forgot, "You have this way of making everyone in the room feel like they're the most interesting person there." These weren't pickup artist tricks. These weren't memorized lines. These were observations from men who had developed the skill of truly seeing women as individuals. But then I made an even bigger discovery. I started analyzing the specific language patterns that created the strongest emotional responses. And I found something incredible. There are 6 types of observations that consistently create attraction in mature women. 6 specific ways of seeing and commenting that bypass their defenses and create genuine connection. But here's the thing: these aren't just random compliments. They're based on psychological principles that most men never learn. They tap into what mature women actually value: being understood, being appreciated for their complexity, being seen as complete human beings rather than just pretty faces. Today, I'm giving you the exact blueprint. But I need you to promise me something: don't use these phrases as manipulation tactics. They only work when you genuinely mean them. Use them to deceive, and they'll backfire harder than you can imagine.
Are you ready?
Because once you learn these, you'll never look at compliments the same way again. This first phrase is absolutely genius, and I'm going to break down exactly why it works on 3 different psychological levels.
Level 1. De observation factor.
Instead of saying, "You have a beautiful smile," like literally every other guy, you're acknowledging that there's depth behind it. You're not just commenting on the physical feature. You're recognizing that smiles have context, history, meaning. When a woman hears this, her brain immediately thinks, "Wait. He's not just looking at my face. He's thinking about my experiences, my personality, my story." That level of depth is incredibly rare in casual interactions. But here's the brilliant part: you're not just making an observation, you're creating an opportunity for connection. You're literally inviting her to share something personal. Most compliments are dead ends. "You're pretty, thank you," conversation over. This opens a door. The "or do I have to guess" part is pure gold. It adds a playful challenge that creates a spark of tension. You're essentially saying, "You can either tell me willingly, or I'm going to figure it out myself." That's confident and intriguing. Let me tell you about Marcus, a 38-year-old architect. He used this line on a woman at a networking event. She had been smiling politely at everyone, But when he said this, her whole demeanor changed. She said, "Actually, I just got news that my daughter got accepted to her dream college. I've been trying to contain my excitement all evening." They ended up talking for 2 hours about parenting, dreams, and life transitions. 6 months later, they're in a serious relationship. All because he chose to see the story behind the smile instead of just commenting on the smile itself. But here's the crucial part most guys miss. After you deliver this line, you must pause.
You don't feel the silence.
You don't immediately add, "You're really pretty," or some other generic follow-up. The power is in giving her space to process what just happened. Most men are so uncomfortable with silence that they immediately sabotage their own success. Don't be that guy.
Say the line, smile slightly, and what?
Let her brain catch up to what you just did. Important warning: don't use this if she's clearly having a bad day or if her smile seems forced. This line works best when you catch a genuine, spontaneous smile that seems to have some energy behind it. Read the room first. And speaking of reading the room, phrase number 2 is all about appreciating what she's not showing you. This phrase is absolutely dangerous in the best possible way. And I'm going to explain exactly why it works, when to use it, and the one critical mistake that will make it backfire completely.
We live in an age of oversharing.
Instagram stories, Facebook posts, TikTok videos, everyone's broadcasting every detail of their lives. In this environment, a woman who maintains some privacy, some mystery, some parts of herself that she doesn't put on display, that's incredibly attractive to the right kind of man. But here's what most guys don't realize. When you tell a woman you appreciate her restraint, her selectivity about what she reveals, you're complimenting something she's consciously chosen to do. You're appreciating her judgment, her boundaries, her sense of self-preservation. This phrase tells her that you understand something crucial. The most interesting people have layers. They have depths that aren't immediately visible. They have complexity that goes beyond their public persona. When you say this, you're essentially telling her, "I see that you're not shallow. I recognize that you have substance that you don't just give away to anyone. And I find that attractive." For a mature woman who has learned to value her privacy, who has boundaries, who doesn't feel the need to broadcast everything about herself, hearing this from a man is like finding a needle in a haystack. I know a guy named David who used this phrase on a second date. The woman, Jennifer, was 32 and had been burned by guys who only wanted to know about her surface-level interests. When David said this, she literally stopped walking and said, "That's the most perceptive thing anyone said to me in years." She later told me that most men she dated seemed frustrated when she didn't immediately share her deepest thoughts and feelings. They wanted her to be an open book from day one. But David was different. He appreciated that she had depth that took time to reveal. They've been married for 2 years now, and she still says that comment was the moment she knew he was different from every other guy she'd dated. But here's where guys mess this up. You can't use this phrase on someone who's actually oversharing or being completely open with you. It only works when you're talking to someone who clearly has boundaries, who seems to have layers they're not immediately revealing. Look for these signs. She's comfortable with pauses in conversation. She doesn't feel the need to fill every silence with information about herself. She asks questions about you instead of just talking about herself. She seems to have opinions and thoughts that she's not immediately sharing. And here's the crucial part: you have to genuinely appreciate depth and complexity. If you're the kind of guy who gets bored easily, who needs constant entertainment, who wants everything laid out for you immediately, don't use this phrase.
Because she will test you.
She'll see if you really mean it by continuing to reveal herself slowly. And if you get impatient or start pressuring her to open up faster, she'll know you were just using a line. Here's an advanced technique. After you say this phrase and she responds positively, don't immediately ask her to reveal more. Instead, share something about yourself that most people don't know. Show her that you also have layers, that you also understand the value of gradual revelation. But if you think that phrase was powerful, wait until you hear phrase number 3. This one completely reframes how she thinks about her own attractiveness. This phrase is pure psychological gold, and I'm going to break down exactly why it's so powerful that it can literally change how a woman sees herself. Most compliments make women choose: either you're appreciating their looks or their personality. "You're beautiful" focuses only on appearance. "You have a great personality" often feels like code for "you're not that attractive physically." But this phrase? This acknowledges both while making it clear that her inner radiance is even more compelling than her physical beauty. You're not dismissing her looks, you're saying they're great, but her energy is even better. Here's what makes this especially powerful for mature women. By age 30, 35, 40, a woman has usually developed a strong sense of her own energy. She's worked on herself. She's developed her personality, her confidence, her presence in the world. When you recognize her energy specifically, you're acknowledging all of that work, all of that growth, all of that development. You're seeing her as a complete person who has cultivated something beyond just genetics. But here's the psychological magic. When you tell a woman her energy is attractive, you're complimenting something she has control over. She can't change her bone structure, but she can work on her energy, her presence, her vibe. So instead of making her feel like a passive recipient of genetic luck, you're making her feel appreciated for qualities she's actively developed. That's incredibly empowering. Let me tell you about what happened when my friend Tom used this phrase. He was at a coffee shop, talking to Lisa, a 29-year-old teacher who had mentioned feeling insecure about her appearance after a recent breakup. When Tom said this, Lisa's entire posture changed. She sat up straighter, her eyes lit up, and she said, "Really? My ex used to tell me I was pretty, but he never said anything about my energy." Later, she told me that comment made her realize she had been focusing too much on her physical appearance and not appreciating the personal growth she'd achieved. It literally shifted her self-perception. They didn't end up dating, she wasn't ready for a relationship, but she said that comment changed how she thought about herself and what she had to offer. That's the power of a well-placed, genuine observation. But here's the crucial caveat: you absolutely must mean both parts of this compliment. If you don't genuinely find her physically attractive, don't use this phrase. It will come across as manipulative or patronizing. And you need to have actually observed her energy. What specifically about her presence do you find attractive? Is it her confidence, her warmth, her intelligence, her humor? You need to know what you're talking about. Here's how to make this phrase even more powerful. Follow it up with a specific observation about her energy. For example, "Your energy is more attractive than your face," and that's saying a lot. There's something about how you light up when you talk about your work that's absolutely magnetic. Now you're not just making a general statement, you're showing that you've been paying attention to the specific ways her personality shines through. Don't use this phrase if you haven't spent enough time with her to observe her energy. She's having a low energy day or seems depressed. You're trying to recover from commenting too much on her physical appearance. You don't genuinely find her physically attractive. And now we're getting to the really interesting stuff. Phrase number 4 is where we start playing with humor and playful exaggeration. But be careful, this one can backfire spectacularly if you get the tone wrong. Alright, this is the phrase I warned you about in the beginning. It's incredibly powerful, but it can absolutely destroy your chances if you use it wrong. I'm going to give you the complete breakdown of when, how, and why this works. Humor is one of the most powerful tools in attraction, but it's also one of the most dangerous. When humor works, it creates instant connection and makes you memorable. When it fails, it makes you look desperate or inappropriate. This phrase works because it uses playful exaggeration to deliver a massive compliment without making it feel heavy or uncomfortable. You're telling her she's so amazing that she's going to make every other woman seem boring by comparison, but you're doing it in a way that makes her smile. But here's the deeper psychology. This phrase only works when it comes from genuine confidence, not nervous energy. It's essentially a high-risk, high-reward move that demonstrates you're comfortable being bold. When you say this with the right energy, you're showing her that you're not intimidated by her attractiveness. You're not walking on eggshells. You're confident enough to be playful, even slightly cocky. But listen carefully. Timing is everything with this phrase. You cannot use this in the first 10 minutes of meeting someone. It will sound like a pickup line from a guy who uses the same routine on everyone. Wait until there's already some rapport, some back and forth, some indication that she's enjoying your company. Look for these signs. She's laughing at your other jokes. She's contributing to the conversation, not just responding. Her body language is open and engaged. There's already some playful energy between you. I watched a guy named Alex use this phrase perfectly at a friend's birthday party. He had been talking to Maria for about 45 minutes. They were both laughing, the conversation was flowing, and there was clear mutual interest. When he delivered the line, she burst out laughing and said, "Oh my God, that's terrible." But she was smiling the whole time and playfully hit his arm. The key was that it came after they had already established a connection. They've been dating for 8 months now, and she still brings up that line as the moment she knew he was different from other guys, confident enough to be playful, but not arrogant.
The way you say this is just as important as when you say it.
Your tone needs to be
Playful, not serious. Confident, not desperate.
slightly exaggerated, but not over the top. Delivered with a smile, not a creepy stare. I've seen this phrase fail catastrophically, and it's always for the same reasons. 1. Used too early in the interaction. 2. Delivered with nervous energy instead of confidence. 3. Said by guys who don't actually have the personality to back up that level of boldness. 4. Used on women who clearly aren't in a playful mood. If you use this phrase and it doesn't land well, if she looks uncomfortable or doesn't respond positively, here's how to recover.
Don't double down.
Don't explain the joke.
Don't get defensive.
Simply say, "Sorry, that came out wrong," and smoothly transition to a different topic. But if you want to see a phrase that's powerful without being risky, phrase number 5 is about recognizing something most men are actually afraid of. This phrase is revolutionary because it complements something that most men are actually intimidated by: a woman's confidence and strength. And I'm going to explain why this creates such a powerful attraction response. Think about this. How many men do you know who get nervous when a woman maintains strong eye contact?
How many look away first?
How many seem uncomfortable when a woman doesn't shrink or apologize for her presence? If you're honest, probably most of them. Strong eye contact from a confident woman can be intimidating because it signals that she's not easily impressed, not desperate for approval, and not going to play small to make a man feel bigger. When you compliment her strength instead of being threatened by it, you immediately separate yourself from 90% of men. You're telling her, "I don't need you to be smaller to make me feel bigger. Your confidence isn't threatening to me, it's attractive." For a woman who has spent years learning not to apologize for being strong, for having opinions, for taking up space, hearing this from a man is like finding a unicorn.
It's so rare.
Here's what's happening psychologically. Most women have been conditioned to make themselves smaller to make men comfortable. They've been told their directness is intimidating, or their confidence is too much. When you specifically compliment her for maintaining eye contact, for not backing down, for not shrinking, you're validating a part of her personality that she's probably had to defend or hide in other relationships. Sarah, a 35-year-old lawyer, told me about a date where the guy said this to her. She said, "I had been on so many dates where men seemed uncomfortable with my directness. They wanted me to be softer, more deferential, less me. But when he said he liked how I held eye contact, I realized he wasn't threatened by my strength. He was attracted to it. That was the moment I knew I could be completely myself with him. They're engaged now, and she credits that moment as the turning point where she felt safe to be her full, unfiltered self. But here's the crucial part: you have to actually be able to maintain eye contact yourself when you say this. If you deliver this line while looking away or seeming nervous, it's not just ineffective, it's contradictory. Your actions have to match your words. If you're going to compliment her confidence, you need to demonstrate confidence yourself. Here's how to make this even more powerful. Follow up with a specific observation about what her eye contact communicates. For example, "You're beautiful, yes, but what I like most is how you hold eye contact. It tells me you're not afraid to be seen for who you really are." Now you're not just complimenting a physical behavior, you're recognizing the deeper quality it represents. Don't use this phrase if you can't maintain eye contact yourself. She's clearly shy or insecure about her appearance. You haven't actually observed her maintaining strong eye contact. You're trying to fix someone who seems uncomfortable with themselves. And now we come to phrase number 6. This is the one I almost didn't include because it's so intense, so advanced, that it can either create instant chemistry or completely ruin your chances.
Are you ready for this?
Alright, this phrase is nuclear. It's for advanced practitioners only, and I'm only sharing it because when it works correctly, it creates the kind of instant electric chemistry that people write songs about. This phrase works because it acknowledges something that most men either don't notice or don't have the courage to verbalize: the complexity of female communication, especially nonverbal communication. Women often communicate in layers. Their body language, their eye contact, their energy, it's rarely simple or one-dimensional. A mature woman might be interested but cautious, attracted but protective, wanting connection but maintaining boundaries. When you make this observation, you're demonstrating a high level of emotional intelligence. You're showing her that you can read subtlety, that you understand complexity, that you're not looking for simple, obvious signals. You're essentially saying, "I see that you're not just giving me green lights or red lights. I understand that you're giving me complex signals that require actual attention and intelligence to decode." But here's why this phrase is so dangerous. You can only use it when there's already established attraction and tension. If you misread the situation, if there's no existing chemistry, if she's not actually sending mixed signals, this will come across as presumptuous or even creepy. Look for these signs before even considering this phrase. She's been maintaining eye contact but also creating physical distance. She's been engaging in the conversation but also testing your boundaries. Her body language shows interest but also some reservation. There's already sexual tension in the air. I know a guy who used this phrase after about 2 hours of conversation at a wine bar. The woman had been giving him complex signals all evening, leaning in when he talked, but pulling back when he got too close. Laughing at his jokes, but also challenging his opinions. When he finally said this, she paused for a long moment, then smiled and said, "You're more perceptive than I thought." The tension that had been building all evening finally had a release valve. They left together that night and have been in a relationship for over a year. But the key was that he waited until the timing was absolutely perfect. Here's the brutal truth: if you use this phrase and it doesn't land, there's no recovery. You can't take it back, you can't explain it away, you can't pretend you meant something else. That's why I almost didn't include it in this video. It's not for beginners. It's not for guys who aren't absolutely certain about what they're doing. It's for men who have developed the ability to read complex social and sexual dynamics accurately. If you're not 100% certain about using this phrase, here's what I recommend. Acknowledge the complexity without being so direct. Say something like, "You're interesting, I can't quite figure you out yet, and I like that." This shows you recognize her complexity without making assumptions about her specific feelings or intentions. It's much safer while still demonstrating emotional intelligence. But here's what I really want you to understand. These phrases aren't magic spells. They're not pickup artist tricks that you can memorize and deploy mechanically. They work because they represent something much deeper, a fundamental shift in how you see and interact with women. Every single one of these phrases demonstrates the same core qualities: the ability to observe rather than just look, appreciation for complexity over simplicity, recognition of individuality rather than generic traits, confidence in your own worth rather than desperate seeking of approval. When you develop the ability to truly observe, to notice the small things, the subtle things, the unique things that make each woman special, you don't need a collection of clever phrases. You'll naturally say things that are meaningful because they come from genuine perception. Think about it. Every phrase I've shared today is essentially an observation. That smile has a story. Observation.
I like what you don't show. Observation.
Your energy is attractive. Observation. And here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. If you're just memorizing these phrases without developing the mindset behind them, they won't work. Mature women have been dealing with fake compliments their entire adult lives. They can sense authenticity from a mile away. They'll know if you're running a routine. They'll know if you're following a script. They'll know if you're using techniques instead of being genuine. And when they figure it out, and they will, your chances are over. So how do you develop this authentic observation ability? It starts with curiosity. Instead of thinking about what you want,